Monsters come out of nowhere one by one. Their sights are set upon the land we love. Bad vibes are the cue for me. Fight, fight, fight. I'll guard the planet like a shield for a night. So no, I won't stop fighting till it's over. Won't run away. And you can bet that Earth will keep on turning. I'm making sure it's safe. Join in the face of my fists are sturdy in their faith. They'll never shake. Ain't nobody stopping it burn. Show what we're made of. I'll change the future with my nerves to one that we deserve for the world.
With the explosion of that spirit bomb, a wave of impact reverberates throughout the universe. However, the energy that reverberates brings with it a feeling of hope, which warms the hearts of all living beings. Filled with that feeling, Goku closes his eyes while smiling, returning to his base form. Man, that was really hard, he admits as he sighs in relief. However, Goku's eyes widen when he feels something. Oh no! From the center of the explosion of light, a being emerges. Surrounded by dark energy, he displays a new appearance, but this time, he emits a glow. What Goku feels is something transcendental, a feeling he knows very well. The one who has just been born is Shinken. Well, I admit I was truly terrified. It really came very close, Cumber admits. But now, it's you who will feel the real terror! Faced with that figure, Goku simply despairs. Vegeta is still lying on the ground of the planet where he indirectly defeated Iwan. He's very tired because of all the effort he had to make to prevent Iwan's self-destruction from destroying multiple universes. But despite his tiredness, even in base form, he is managing to use the power of the divine Super Saiyan to heal the wound in his abdomen, which had been pierced by Iwan. But then Vegeta feels what just happened, and he's in shock. What is this? This is Cumber's energy? It cannot be! Vegeta gets up and then teleports. Vegeta arrives at Goku's side with the teleportation. Seeing him, Cumber greets him. Vegeta, I'm glad you decided to join us. Seeing his companion at his side, Goku says, Vegeta, I'm glad you're okay. I was afraid that dealing with all that energy from Iwan would have taken a toll on you. Cut the bullshit, Kakarot. What does that mean? Vegeta asks, referring to Cumber. Cumber says that he has to thank Vegeta for this transformation. At first, Vegeta doesn't get it, but in the next second he understands, and tells Goku that Cumber got the Shinken through his energy that was possessing Iwan. Vegeta remembers that just before Iwan exploded, part of Cumber's energy that was possessing him dispersed. He thought that Iwan was repelling and destroying that energy, but it seems that that wasn't what happened. Cumber confirms Vegeta's theory and explains that in fact, Iwan would have completely destroyed all of his evil energy that was possessing him. But before Iwan did that, he caused part of his energy to leave Iwan, and after that, he absorbed this energy back. And at the moment when he would be completely destroyed by the spirit bomb, he managed to achieve the Shinken form, and thus ended up managing to survive. Cumber thanks Vegeta for making Iwan reach this extreme and revealed this power that he never imagined that God had. Vegeta is outraged by this, and returning to his Shinken form, he furiously advances at Cumber, trying to kick him, but Cumber disappears from in front of Vegeta and reappears behind him at such an incredible speed that Vegeta is scared. The Saiyan God moves away, firing a wave of energy at Cumber, but he stops moving when he ends up bumping into Cumber himself, who is already behind him again. Impossible! Vegeta explains in shock at the enemy's impressive speed. With Shinken, it's completely possible! Cumber responds as he lands a punch so absurdly strong that it momentarily deforms Vegeta's abdomen and back. God Vegeta walks away while shrinking his body due to pain. Vegeta! Goku shouts wordly as he also changes into his Shinken form and charges forward. He reaches Cumber with a punch, which the evil Saiyan easily holds with one hand, and immediately responds with a kick from below that hits Goku squarely in the abdomen, and with the same leg, he lands a knee on Goku's chin. turns Goku around with the hand he's holding and launches him at Vegeta, who is coming again to attack. Cumber's terrifying energy, which was amplified by Shinken's power, reaches every corner of Universe 7. On the planet of the three-eyed race, Tien feels the terrifying energy of the King of Evil Saiyans, reaching the point where his heart beats arrhythmically due to such discomfort that the evil and cruel power causes him. The Shinken power is something that is beyond Tien's understanding, and he cannot feel it as it truly is. But the only thing he knows is that evil is still alive in the universe, and now it is even greater. On Earth, the feeling is similar. Akami's lookout, Krillin, young Master Roshi, and God Yamcha also can't say exactly what happened and what they are feeling, but they are absolutely sure that a huge evil hovers over the universe. In Hell, King Kai is completely desperate. He can't believe that Cumber managed to survive even the Spirit Bomb and still surpass himself again. King Yema asks what will happen to them now, and King Kai, showing total hopelessness, says that this time Goku and Vegeta's chances are practically zero. At Zeno's palace, the atmosphere is also worrying. Zeno simply cannot accept what just happened. But Cumber was defeated, wasn't he? That's not fair! Daishinkan remains serious, and this time he's even more worried than he already was. He tells Zeno that at the last moment Cumber managed to save himself, but now things are even more serious than they already were, since the power he is showing now is on a completely different level. Zeno tries to stay positive, saying that at least now Goku and Vegeta are fighting together, so they should be able to win. But Daishinkan says that Cumber's level now far exceeds theirs, and probably not even fighting together will they be able to win. In fact, Daishinkan says that he isn't sure even he could defeat Cumber now. When Zeno hears this, his mouth drops open, and with real terror taking over his heart, the Supreme God shudders. At full speed, Goku attempts infinite attacks against Cumber, attacking with punches and kicks in a sequence that exceeds the speed of light countless times. But despite all of Goku's blows, endowed with extreme precision, skill, and speed, Cumber dodges them all. While dodging Goku's incessant blows, the King of Evil Saiyans marvels that Shinken has evolved his abilities to a completely superior level, and that includes his Ultra Instinct. Accumulating a gigantic amount of destruction energy, Vegeta shouts for Goku to move away from Cumber, and when Goku does so, he launches a final Hakai of titanic proportions against the enemy. But the Evil Saiyan remains in the same place, and extending one of his hands to the oncoming massive wave of power, he shouts, "Hakai!" and Vegeta's power simply disappears from existence without leaving any trace. Vegeta can't believe this, and asks what the hell just happened. Cumber recalls that he possessed all the gods of destruction, which means he also has a very well-developed Hakai. And now, with Shinken, this has been taken to a completely higher level. Goku goes to Vegeta's side and tells him that this is not good, since Cumber even surpassed them both in their greatest specialty, which is the power of destruction and Ultra Instinct. No matter what they do, they simply won't be able to defeat Cumber now, as he is superior to them in absolutely everything. Vegeta says he understands the situation very well, but there's nothing they can do other than keep fighting. Goku tells Vegeta that, in fact, there is something they can do. Vegeta soon understands what he means, and he says he won't do that. Goku tells him that there is no other option and that they need to do this. Vegeta responds by saying that he trained very hard all these years and surpassed his limits countless times just so he wouldn't have to do that ever again. Goku says he understands his frustration and says he didn't want to have to resort to this either, but unfortunately it's necessary. Cumber interrupts their conversation by coming up with a flying kick to Goku's face and then directs the same leg that hit Goku toward Vegeta's ribs, landing a side kick that the Hakaishin Saiyan feels a lot. While Vegeta feels a vibrating pain from this attack, Cumber extends his hand to him, preparing an energy attack that would hit his face from close range. But noticing Goku returning to retaliate the flying kick, Cumber gives up attacking Vegeta, disappearing to let Goku hit nothing but the vacuum. He then appears above the two and, with one hand, launches a globe of energy at them. Goku launches a Kamehameha against the globe at the same time as Vegeta launches a Gallic gun. But despite their combined energy, Cumber's globe of power advances against them with ease. Goku and Vegeta need to escape the attack with a teleport, but as soon as they finish the technique, Cumber is already behind them. When they turn around, the God Slayer holds their faces with his hands and makes their heads collide, dizzying them. Goku and Vegeta respond respectively with a punch to the chest and a kick to Cumber's face, but he receives these attacks without any reaction. Watching all this, Daishinkan tells Zeno that even in Shinken form, Goku and Vegeta won't resist many of Cumber's attacks. Turning to the bodyguards, he says that after finishing these two, the palace will definitely be his next destination, and then tells them to get ready. Zeno's guards can't hide their fear. On one of the uninhabited planets in Universe 7, Goku and Vegeta fall, opening a gigantic crater in the ground. Even though they hadn't been facing Cumber Shinken for long and hadn't received many attacks, the two were already very injured and could barely stand. "There's no way this wretch could have gotten that strong," Vegeta complains, feeling his body completely overcome by pain. "There's no other way, Vegeta. This guy's going to end up killing us if we keep fighting like this." Standing up, Vegeta says he won't merge with Goku. Goku, also getting up, says that if they don't merge, they will die. Vegeta says that it doesn't matter, and that he would rather die than give up his bride. Cumber arrives at the planet, and hovering over them, accumulates a huge amount of energy of destruction, saying that he will soon end them both. Seeing the attack that the enemy is preparing, Goku and Vegeta become very worried, as they realize that this attack is enough power to destroy the entire Universe 7 and even others. Vegeta asks if Cumber is crazy, and says that if he launches an attack with such massive power and no precision like this, the entire universe will disappear. But the God Slayer says he doesn't care, because there is nothing else in this universe or in others that interests him. He says he will finish them both off, and after that, he will finally destroy the Supreme God and end his campaign of destroying the gods. Goku asks what he's going to do after destroying the universes and the gods. Cumber says that now he has Shinken, he can find other timelines and other realities. His intention is to continue getting stronger and stronger and destroy everything he finds in his path. He also says that thanks to the Dragon Balls, he knows which reality Goku and Vegeta belong to, and intends to go there and destroy everything too. This worries both of them, who are very irritated by this threat. After saying these things, Cumber says goodbye and then launches his attack. As they see that massive sphere of destruction approaching, Goku tells Vegeta that they need to fuse right now. Vegeta says he doesn't want to do this, but Goku says that even if he doesn't care about dying, he should worry about the other people in Universe 7 and others who are going to be destroyed. And if he doesn't care about the people in this reality, he should at least care about the people in their reality, who Cumber just swore he would kill. Vegeta stays silent. Suddenly, Cumber's energy attack simply disappears. What? Cumber screams in shock. How is this possible? After the destruction of that attack, a new figure could be seen. Bastard, who are you? Cumber asks. The new being that has just appeared introduces himself. I am the fusion of Goku and Vegeta. Gogeta, ready to kick your ass. Seeing what happened, Zeno is very surprised and asks Daishinkan what they did. Daishinkan says that they apparently used a technique called fusion, which made Goku and Vegeta transform into one being, which is this person called Gogeta. Daishinkan also notes that the power of this person called Gogeta is very great, even though he is currently not using any transformation. Zeno is very impressed by this. Wow, Goku and Vegeta are awesome! They always know what to do! The Supreme God exclaims, very excited. Those who also can't contain their excitement are King Kai and King Yemma, who are jumping in joy. King Kai recognized the technique that Goku and Vegeta just used, and explains to Yemma that the power the Metamoru dance fusion gives the user is completely colossal. He states with certainty that this fusion will definitely defeat Cumber. While taking a good look at Gogeta, Cumber remains silent and very serious, recognizing that the power of that guy who just appeared is no joke. Facing Cumber with a smile, Gogeta says, I see you're a little shocked, aren't you? But get ready to be shocked even more, because now you're going to meet Gogeta Shinken! Gogeta concentrates his power, exuding a majestic glow from his body, filling that entire region with an energy that seems to penetrate deep into Cumber's heart, who feels that power with great terror. In just a few seconds, Gogeta Shinken reveals himself. What do you think of that, huh? Gogeta asks his opponent with a teasing tone. I hope you didn't shit your pants after feeling my power. Cumber is deeply irritated by his opponent's words, but despite his anger, he still tries to maintain control and asks Gogeta how he can be so powerful. Gogeta says that the fusion not only added Goku and Vegeta's powers, but also increased them exponentially. The powers of those two, even in Shinken form, don't even compare to his power now. Gogeta tells Cumber that he could win without even using Shinken, but he thought it was appropriate to face Shinken with Shinken. However, if Cumber thinks it's not a fair fight, he can lower his power again. These words penetrate deeply into the King of Evil Saiyans, who lets himself be overcome by fury as his evil energy, mixed with Shinken energy, reveals itself in a very dense aura of power. You bastard! Who do you think you're talking to? I am Cumber, the Godslayer, and I won't listen to insults from you! Cumber concentrates his energy in one hand as he charges at full speed towards Gogeta. The next moment, the planet they are on disappears in a very powerful explosion, the pressure of which spreads, shaking the entire solar system. However, this attack carrying the God Slayer's hatred was held back by just one of Gogeta's fingers. What does that mean? Cumber asks, completely shocked. He tries to step back, but his hand seems to simply be glued to Gogeta's finger, as if it were a magnet holding him back. He asks what's going on, and Gogeta, while keeping him trapped, says that Cumber is a very nervous guy, and that he could end up destroying the universe from one moment to the next with these attacks, so it's better to take him away. Gogeta uses teleportation to take them both to a completely empty dimension. Cumber still has his hand stuck around Gogeta's finger and asks what the hell technique he's using. Gogeta says that he's just attaching his ki to Cumber's ki, which is a very simple thing for someone who dominates the own ki in a superior way like him. Cumber says that if Gogeta won't let him go for good, he will let him go for bad. The evil Saiyan tries to punch Gogeta straight in the face, but to his complete shock, Gogeta simply opens his mouth and makes a ki arm out of it to hold Cumber's hand. He is completely shocked and scared by that. But he is even more surprised when several ki arms begin to appear around Gogeta, as if they were ghost arms, and these arms begin to beat the Godslayer, who has no way to defend himself. After receiving hundreds of attacks, Cumber becomes enraged and releases his ki in a gigantic explosion, which completely shakes the entire dimension they're in. But when the explosion ends, Gogeta is still there, unharmed. It's not possible! Cumber screams. Man, you're very stressed. You don't have the slightest patience to play. Gogeta says ironically, it's okay. If you want me to let you go, I will. Gogeta releases Cumber, who quickly moves away from him while forming a Kienzan and shouting for Gogeta to stop playing around. Cumber launches the attack, which simply rips Gogeta in half. Oh no! Gogeta screams as his upper and lower body are split apart by Cumber's cutting disc. That's the price for fooling around while fighting the great Cumber! The King of Evil Saiyans screams with laughter. But the one who laughs right after is Gogeta, who simply regenerates his body, making new legs grow from 1 second to the next. Cumber can't help but open his mouth and widen his eyes, seeing what just happened in complete shock. But his shock doesn't stop there. Gogeta's legs, which were disconnected from his body, advance against Cumber and land a flying blow straight into the Evil Saiyan's chest before landing a sequence of kicks on his face. Zeno watches everything that's happening with his mouth open and asks how this guy called Gogeta manages to do all this. Daishinkan explains that this is all thanks to Shinken, since with mastery of ki, a person can use almost any type of ability, no matter how unbelievable it may seem. There are races that, thanks to the control of ki, are able to become giants, regenerate their bodies, teleport, multiply, and many other things. Shinken, above all, is a stage where the user achieves transcendental control of their own ki, and is thus able to elevate their abilities to extraordinary levels. Once you absolutely master ki, almost anything becomes possible to do. Zeno understands what Daishinkan is trying to say, but says that he didn't see Goku and Vegeta using this type of ability, not even in Shinken form. Daishinkan says that it is because certainly the fusion, as it is an evolution of Goku and Vegeta, also has a better refinement of Shinken itself. So it is natural that this Gogeta guy can do things through Shinken that not even Goku and Vegeta could. Cumber is completely punished by the kicks from Gogeta's old legs, until he becomes completely enraged and, using an extremely concentrated Hakai, makes his legs disappear permanently from existence. After doing so, Cumber fires a sphere of destruction energy at Gogeta himself, saying that this attack had enough concentrated power to destroy an entire universe. But Gogeta holds the sphere of power on the tip of his index finger, and then, with a blow, throws the sphere back to Cumber, who immediately points his hand at his own attack and undoes it. But Cumber doesn't give up and flies towards Gogeta to try a physical attack again. However, he retreats when a whip-like attack he doesn't even see coming hits him in the face. Cumber asks what just happened, but then he starts receiving a sequence of identical attacks, feeling as if an invisible whip was hitting his body several times in a row. When the attacks stop, Cumber asks what Gogeta is doing and tells him to stop cheating, but Gogeta responds by saying that he's not cheating and that it's not his fault if Cumber is too slow to see things. Cumber asks what he's talking about. Gogeta sighs and says that he'll make things easier for Cumber by attacking more slowly. After saying that, Gogeta raises one of his arms and then stretches that arm and starts to spin it. Now Cumber understands what is happening, recognizing that he can stretch his arms like the Namekians. Gogeta throws his arm like a whip. Cumber, now seeing better, dodges and advances towards Gogeta, but soon after he's hit again. "You bastard! How did you do that?" he asks. Looking better at Gogeta, he sees that the enemy is now using both arms. Well, you didn't think I would make it easy for you, did you? Using both whip arms, Gogeta simply punishes Cumber with attacks so transcendently fast that not even with Shinken and Ultra Instinct can Cumber dodge. After punishing the enemy a lot, Gogeta finally stops the attacks and retracts his arms. The result of these attacks, Cumber's body is covered in wounds. But that's just the external result. The internal result is a colossal fury that grows in the evil Saiyan, whose power now increases at the same time he releases his bestial energy. Gogeta is surprised, realizing that Cumber's power is growing even more. He figured Shinken would be the evil Saiyan's limit for now, but it appears that isn't the case. Cumber now begins to emanate another type of energy, red energy. Cow can increase 10,000 times! The evil Saiyan screams. In an explosion of black, glowing, crimson energy, the Godslayer displays a power no one ever imagined he could achieve. Only with the release of Cumber's power does that dimension begin to shake, with its walls beginning to crack and countless fissures opening in the fabric of space-time. Gogeta realizes that by using Shinken, Cumber has also raised the capabilities of his Cowken to an extraordinary level. This was something he did not expect the enemy to do. Cumber's muscles expand at the same time as they become extremely vascular, with their veins almost popping out of the body. Not even Cumber's voice is the same anymore. Now it has an even deeper tone, which combined with the fury with which that man expresses himself, makes it seem like a real demon speaking. "I will destroy you!" Cumber threatens his enemy. Let's find out, Gogeta says with a smile on his face as he takes his combat stance. Daishinkan realizes that these two are now going to move on to the final move, and tells Zeno to keep his eyes open. But at that moment, Daishinkan notices something, and as he turns to someone who has just arrived there, he asks, "What are you doing here?" Only after Daishinkan asks this, do Zeno and the bodyguards realize they had visitors. The two visitors are two men who have a very serious expression. Cumber attacks! He shoots towards Gogeta with such overwhelming power that his body distorts reality as he moves. The speed that Cumber reaches is so high that it looks like a teleportation, making him suddenly disappear and reappear in front of Gogeta with a punch already armed. From one moment to the next, that entire dimension explodes when an impact wave of monstrous proportions is released. With the destruction of this dimension, a gigantic dimension-sized black hole is formed in the fabric of reality, and at the center of this black hole are Gogeta and Cumber. The latter is in shock as he realizes that even his 10,000 times more powerful punch was held by a single hand from Gogeta. Damn you! Cumber curses his opponent. Well, at least now maybe you'll give me a little fun, Gogeta says with a content smile. Cumber and Gogeta start an exchange of blows. The gravitational force of a black hole is so great that not even light can move through it. However, Gogeta and Cumber can, and they don't just move. They move at a completely extraordinary speed, surpassing the insurmountable gravitational force of that gigantic black hole. As their blows are exchanged in that sea of darkness, the collisions of their blows, energized by their titanic powers, begin to generate extremely powerful electrical waves, and consequently, light. Their transcendental powers generate light where there can be no light. Gogeta is very excited and says that Cumber is giving him a good warm-up, but the Godslayer doesn't share this excitement, recognizing that despite his efforts, his attacks aren't reaching Gogeta. You bastard! You're still kidding me, aren't you? The evil Saiyan asks, and without even waiting for a response, Cumber shouts, I won't allow it! Ken increased 20,000 times! The black and red explosion of the Godslayer begins to shake the dimensional balance of the black hole, altering the force of gravity in that place. Cumber's muscles grow even more, gaining almost inhuman proportions. His next attack is a punch, containing 20,000 times his normal power. But Gogeta is not intimidated, responding with a punch too. In the collision of the two Saiyans' fists, that black hole explodes. With the complete destruction of that dark dimension, they will end up in a solar dimension, a place that contains millions of suns. The heat generated in that dimension is monstrous, making any possibility of life out of the question. But this doesn't apply to Cumber and Gogeta, who continue their intense contest of attacks as if the extreme hostility of that environment was nothing. When attempting an attack on Gogeta, Cumber has his arm held and his body ends up being majestically manipulated by Gogeta, who, showing all the technical refinement of Ultra Instinct, maneuvers the opponent's body, sending him spinning against one of the several suns around. But Cumber pulls himself together and just makes it to one of the suns, landing on his feet. Gogeta soon follows, landing in the sun as he attacks. Standing on a sun, the two continue their sequence of attacks, defenses, and dodges. Again, Cumber realizes that something is wrong. Gogeta is still just playing. And he proves this when an attack from Cumber comes towards him and he, with the technical maneuver, deflects the opponent's arm with just one hand and, pulling him towards him, hits Cumber on the forehead with a flick. But it wasn't a normal flick. At the tip of Gogeta's finger was a tiny sphere of energy of destruction, and when this sphere hits the evil Saiyan's forehead, along with the flick, it generates a huge explosion with enough power to destroy the entire sun they were on top of. After receiving such an attack, Cumber is sent spinning for millions of kilometers until reaching another sun, which, when hit by Cumber's body, explodes in an explosion of stratospheric proportions, spreading energy and heat for countless kilometers. But despite fully receiving the power of this explosion, Cumber's body does not suffer such considerable damage. But his pride suffers. The Godslayer has an indomitable fury in his heart, and he exudes this fury along with his power, which makes all of reality shake as he screams, Ken increased 40,000 times! Cumber's muscles expand even further, taking on a completely disproportionate shape. Gogeta warns him about the danger of continuing to do this, saying that even using Shinken, Cumber's body has a limit. But the Godslayer doesn't care about any of this. He just wants the blood of the enemy that humiliates him so much. Extending both hands, Cumber discharges an extremely powerful torrent of energy that goes towards Gogeta. But Gogeta promptly responds, creating a Kienzan of planetary proportions and launching the planet-sized Ki cutting disc towards Cumber's attack. The planetary Kienzan cuts Cumber's energy in half as it spins towards him, forcing the evil Saiyan to dodge. Cumber gets very angry about this and says, What? Do you think it's a big deal for using this? Know that I also learned this technique from that Earthling, and I can do better! Cumber creates a Kienzan the size of 2 planets and then launches it towards Gogeta. However, Gogeta doesn't dodge. He stands still waiting for the attack to arrive. What is that? Has he gone crazy to the point where he thinks he can receive that attack? Cumber asks himself in thought, surprised by the enemy's attitude. Gogeta waits for the disc to reach him, and then, in a completely surprising act, he touches the Kienzan with the tip of his finger, and in the next instant, the disc disappears. Cumber is extremely shocked, wondering what just happened. It's simple. Gogeta responds. I teleported your attack to another place, but I did it so quickly that I didn't even have time to cut myself. At first, Cumber stares at him with an astonished look of surprise, but then his expression changes to complete anger. He attacks, reaching Gogeta with several attacks that the Saiyan fusion deals with very skillful dodges. I'm noticing that your attacks are much faster and stronger, Gogeta comments. Cumber asks if he's just going to dodge, and says that now that his power has increased again, Gogeta won't be able to receive his blows anymore. Do you think that? Gogeta asks. So let's see. In a surprising act, Gogeta simply stops moving and opens his arms, clearly a gesture of someone willing to receive a direct attack from the front. At first, Cumber is very surprised, even remaining silent for a few seconds. But then he gets really angry, saying that Gogeta is the most arrogant guy he's ever met, and that he's going to pay for all this arrogance. Concentrating a very large amount of strength in one of his hands, Cumber lunges forward with everything he has for a finishing punch. Cumber's punch hits Gogeta's chest. The impact of that punch is so monstrous that the vibrational energy generated by it makes all the millions of suns in that dimension rattle, shaking those suns at an atomic level and causing instability in the energy molecules. However, nothing shook Gogeta's body, who received this punch and remained completely indifferent. Cumber's shock is too great. He remains static for a moment, staring at Gogeta with his wide eyes. He floats away, looking at his opponent in a catatonic state, as if a monstrous haunting were right before him. In a short time, the atomic instability of those suns is so great that they begin to explode, generating a chain effect that results in millions of almost simultaneous explosions that create an impact power at a cosmic level that simply destroys that entire dimension. The explosion reaches interdimensional levels, opening a rift in space-time that makes it leak into the vacuum of Universe 7 space and still has enough destructive capacity to make the entire South Galaxy disappear, leaving only a blank space left, where Gogeta and Cumber are now. Man, how hot! Did you need all this fuss? Because of you, many people died here in this galaxy. Gogeta complains. Cumber stays silent. Gogeta continues talking. I thought I could have some fun with you, but I can't. You're very unstable and dangerous, and I won't allow you to kill more people unnecessarily. Besides, this fight isn't even fun, since you're too weak to fight me. When Gogeta says this, Cumber goes into an even greater state of fury. You wretch! How dare you humiliate me like that! I will not forgive you! Cumber begins to scream as he begins to exude even more power. Kaioken increased 80,000 times! When he shouts this, a ridiculously powerful aura surrounds his body, causing the entire universe to tremble desperately, while Cumber's muscles, already extremely large, grow even more. As he transforms into a true muscle monster, his skin begins to tear, and blood begins to squirt from his body from multiple points, the result of the rupture of veins and arteries that can no longer support such power. Cumber took on a terrifying appearance, completely deformed by his own power. Looking at Cumber, Gogeta says that he concentrated so much power in his muscles that he overloaded them, and now he will barely be able to move. He has already exceeded his body's limits, and no matter how much he refuses to accept it, this fight is already over. But Cumber smiles and says he doesn't intend to keep that power in his body. Gogeta asks what he means by that. At that moment, Cumber extends his two hands high and begins to release his energy in the form of a globe of power that mixes black, purple, and white. However, as he creates this globe of power, his muscles begin to decrease in size. All that swelling starts to disappear, as if they were emptying. The result of this is that the globe of energy that is being created begins to gain completely gigantic proportions, surpassing the size of a planet, then a solar system, then a galaxy, and finally, Cumber's energy simply surpasses the size of the whole universe. The globe of energy created by Cumber literally surpasses the size of Universe 7. Cumber reaches an unimaginable level. On Tien's home planet, the sky is completely taken over by Cumber's energy, obviously catching the attention of all the inhabitants and leaving them completely desperate, believing it to be a sign of the end of times. But among everyone, the most desperate is certainly Tien, who has a slightly better idea of what is happening, and although he cannot measure the dimension of that abysmal power, he can understand that the proportions it will take are unimaginable. On Earth, Earthlings also watch the sky being taken over by this strangely colored energy, and they go into total despair. At Kami's lookout, young Master Roshi, God Yamcha, and Krillin watch this event with their hearts completely filled with terror. In hell, the despair is also very great, with King Kai and King Yama simply freaking out. In despair, King Kai says that this has completely crossed all limits. The result of this for Cumber is shocking. The muscles in his body have abruptly deflated, now giving him a dry and cadaverous appearance. Gogeta is very surprised and impressed by this. Damn, this guy just channeled all the energy concentrated in his body into this thing. After understanding this, Gogeta says to Cumber, "Are you crazy, Cumber? If this thing explodes, I'm sure all universes will be completely destroyed. Not even you'll survive this." But Cumber, completely overcome by fury and madness, says it doesn't matter. All he cares about is completely destroying Gogeta. At Zeno's palace, Daishinkan is apparently talking with the two mysterious people who have just arrived. "I completely understand the situation," the Grand Minister says, clearly in a cordial tone towards the visitors. However, he also issues a warning, "But I have my doubts whether they will peacefully obey you." But he stops talking when he feels something that makes even the Father of Angels feel a chill take over his body. Zeno and his guards, who are watching everything through the Daishinkan hologram, are completely perplexed by what they are seeing. "This is bad!" Daishinkan exclaims. "If all this power spreads, all universes will disappear, and even this palace will be destroyed." Gogeta looks at Cumber with a serious look, recognizing that his enemy has completely crossed all limits. Cumber says that not even he will be able to survive this, and then launches the attack capable of destroying the entire multiverse. Gogeta, in a curious move, simply begins to increase the size of his body. He begins to expand until becoming gigantic, then continues expanding, gaining titanic proportions. However, he goes even further by growing his body to completely stratospheric proportions, surpassing the size of the universe and even surpassing Cumber's globe of power. Gogeta's body takes on an unimaginable dimension, and when Cumber's globe of power of universal proportion reaches him, Gogeta simply makes juggles with it. Gogeta treats that massive sphere of power, capable of destroying the multiverse, like a soccer ball. King Kai simply sees his mouth hit the ground with such shock. Equally shocked are Zeno, his guards, and even Daishinkan. They can't believe what they're seeing. And as for Cumber, he just doesn't know what to feel. Cumber sees that completely paralyzed, taken by a deep state of shock that perhaps even his heart has stopped. "That's kind of fun," Gogeta says, while using his feet to play with the attack. But it's best not to joke about it too much. Gogeta takes the energy globe in his hand and then, using a Hakai with power on a cosmic scale, he makes all of Cumber's energy disappear from existence. There is no explosion, reverberations, vibrational waves, nothing like that. Without any fanfare, that multiversal scale power of destruction disappears as if it were nothing. On planet Earth, on Tien's home planet, and on all the other planets in Universe 7, the sky returns to normal. In Hell, King Kai and King Yama, despite the shock, show great relief. And in Zeno's palace, the supreme god of the multiverse watches everything wide-eyed, seeing that this was absolutely incredible. Even Daishinkan sighs, making clear his great relief. "Well, well, what an interesting fellow," says one of the visitors, drawing everyone's attention. For a moment, Cumber is silent, with his body now completely rickety and a cadaverous expression. "So, is there anything else you want to try?" Gogeta asks him after returning to his original size. "No," Cumber responds. His voice, previously high and filled with fury and arrogance, is now low, reflecting a heart as emptied as his muscles. He returns to his base form and then admits, "Not even if I continued evolving for hundreds of years, would I be able to reach your level." Gogeta smiles as he also returns to his base form, and then he responds by saying that it was good that Cumber recognized that at once. Gogeta goes to Cumber and says he's going to take him to Zeno, and warns him not to try anything. Gogeta touches Cumber, and using telepathy, mentally warns Daishinkan that he intends to take Cumber to them, but says that Daishinkan can rest assured, as Cumber will no longer pose any danger. Daishinkan receives Gogeta's mental message with a bit of surprise, saying that he didn't expect him to be able to send telepathic messages over such a great distance. Gogeta says this is one of his many improved skills. Daishinkan then agrees, and says that he can bring Cumber to them. Using teleportation with the same efficiency as Kai, Gogeta goes to Zeno's palace, being received with great joy by the Supreme God, who is so pleased with his presence that he jumps happily on his throne. Zeno says that Goku and Vegeta are absolutely incredible, and Gogeta is even more incredible. But Gogeta ends up not paying much attention to what Zeno is saying, as he notices two mysterious people in the place. The mysterious men look at Gogeta silently, and he does the same. The very weakened Cumber falls to his knees. Looking at him, Daishinkan comments that even his immortal body has been pushed to its absolute limits, and it is a little ironic to see someone who was so proud of his power in this depressing state. Zeno also stares at Cumber for a while, barely believing that this cadaverous-looking person was the same person who just a few minutes ago made his heart fill with terror. Daishinkan says that he has already managed to think of a destiny for Cumber, a special sealing technique used by himself, which will put Cumber in a trance state in a place from which he will never be able to leave. But one of the men present at that place says that this is not what will happen. He says that they are actually interested in Cumber and will take him and Gogeta. This statement leaves everyone present surprised, and Daishinkan asks why they want Cumber. But Gogeta asks what they want with him. Daishinkan explains to Gogeta that these people can help him with this problem of being lost between dimensions. And when he said he would help Goku and Vegeta deal with this problem, he was specifically referring to calling these people, but to his surprise, they appeared there even before he called. The other mysterious man says that men called Goku and Vegeta, as well as Gogeta and Cumber, have caused many problems in the order of dimensions, and this is causing very bad consequences for the natural order of things. That's what brought them there. Gogeta says he had no idea that Goku and Vegeta's situation was causing such big problems. He says that this is another reason for them to return to their reality soon, and says that he is very happy that someone arrived to help. But the mysterious man says that Gogeta didn't quite understand what he meant. He remembers that he just said that their actions caused a lot of problems, and because of that, they are going to be taken into custody. In custody? Gogeta repeats the words, and after pondering it, he gives his answer. I didn't really like the sound of that, so it won't happen. But they tell Gogeta that the option to refuse to go is not being given. When he hears this, he smiles and says that he doesn't think there's anyone there who can make him do anything he doesn't want to do. One of these men steps forward, warning Gogeta with a serious expression that if he resists, he will have to be taken by force. But Gogeta also steps forward, and as he begins to slightly increase his power, says that he can try to do that if he wants. Only with this change in Gogeta's mood does the palace begin to shake intensely, even making Zeno bounce on his throne. The bodyguards are scared, sweating at their temples, and Daishinkan just shuts up and observes. But not even he is calm about that. Gogeta raises one of his hands. However, it is already being held by the mysterious man, who arrived at him in the blink of an eye. This impresses even Gogeta, who lets his surprise show through his eyes, which are discreetly widened. With that man's touch, Gogeta feels his entire body paralyze. It's as if the weight of the universe were on my shoulders, he comments on his own thoughts. This guy's definitely not just anyone. But Gogeta is not intimidated. He suddenly surrounds his body with the energy of destruction, and when this energy touches the mysterious man's body, it simply shatters him, turning him into dust. But in a completely unbelievable event, the dust begins to gather, and the man's body reconstitutes itself. What happened? Gogeta exclaims, this time certainly not being able to hide a surprise. The destructive power I put into this aura is greater than what I used in that energy globe that could destroy the entire multiverse. But Gogeta again doesn't let himself be intimidated, and advances with a punch that is as fast as a teleportation. But when his punch hits, it simply passes through the enemy, who goes behind him and, with the touch of his finger on Gogeta's spine, simply makes him paralyzed again. It cannot be! Gogeta exclaims, and then faints. With the exception of the other mysterious man, everyone present is completely amazed. Gogeta is passed out floating in the air when he suddenly wakes up with a start. He looks around, and all he sees is a huge, completely white space. Did I get sent to another dimension? He wonders. Gogeta closes his eyes, searching for some familiar energy. However, he finds nothing but his own energy. He finds this very strange, as his ability to sense ki is extremely refined, and he should be able to sense someone's energy, even universes or dimensions away. But for some reason, in that place, he can't. Gogeta remembers those two strange men and becomes irritated thinking about how easily he was subdued by one of them. When I meet that guy again, it will be different, he swears to himself, intending to heal his wounded ego. Suddenly, a kind of light door is created in the middle of that blank space, which alarms Gogeta. Must be one of those damn things! Gogeta prepares for the fight, already creating a sphere of power in one of his hands. A foot is placed out of the light, and then Gogeta shoots. But then he is surprised to see that whoever just arrived was not one of those guys, but a woman. And he is even more surprised when the woman stops the sphere of energy launched by him with one finger. Not bad, she says, while looking at the energy that Gogeta just released. But it's far from enough. The woman suddenly makes the energy sphere disappear from her finger, and suddenly, an explosion happens inside Gogeta's body. Smoke begins to come out of the Saiyan's mouth, nostrils, and ears, who is a little stunned and surprised by what just happened. What the hell was that? She made my own energy explode inside my body? He wonders, completely surprised. But after the surprise comes anger, and Gogeta, now recovered, tells this woman that she will pay for this. He moves forward to attack, but then the woman points one of her hands towards him and makes a squeeze sign. Suddenly, a handcuff appears on Gogeta's hands. Looking at this simple and fragile-looking handcuff, Gogeta scoffs. Are you kidding? Do you really think you're going to hold me with that little toy? Gogeta was absolutely sure he would break that handcuff in less than a second. However, that's not what happens. What is that? He asks himself in disbelief. Gogeta starts to put more strength into his arms, but it's useless. Then he starts screaming and emanating a large amount of power, but it is also useless. Gogeta suddenly weakens and falls to one of his knees, asking what kind of sorcery this woman is using. The woman maintains a calm and neutral demeanor as she explains, "You are in a higher dimension, a place where the rules of your reality simply do not apply. This object may seem simple, and in fact, for me it is, but here, this simple object is capable of containing a force that completely defies the laws of your reality. In other words, here, your power means nothing." When this woman says these things, Gogeta gets very angry. His irritation is a manifestation of his frustration, because the helplessness he is feeling in front of that woman is indescribable. Gogeta recognizes that he is dealing with someone far beyond his reach. Someone on a completely higher level. Looking closely at him, the woman realizes that Gogeta no longer has the intention of reacting, and so she undoes the handcuff, holding him while making it clear that there is no reason for aggression, as she is not there to fight. "Who are you?" he asks as he stands up. The woman has a serious appearance. However, it is clear that there is no aggressive intention in her, which calms Gogeta and even makes him regret a little about what he just did. The woman answers the question. "My name is Gaia. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Gogeta." The woman's education surprises Gogeta a little, who comments about her being more educated than those two he met before. After introducing herself, Gaia asks Gogeta to accompany her, as the time has come for him to start having his doubts resolved. Gaia goes to that light door again and disappears, and Gogeta follows her, also disappearing from that white room. As soon as he crosses the light door, Gogeta finds himself already on top of some kind of transparent board, and once Gogeta gets above it, the board starts to fly. Looking around, Gogeta sees that they are in a place that somewhat resembles the vacuum of space, as it is an extremely vast area. But instead of being a dark space, it is full of colors, including colors that Gogeta has never seen before. Scattered throughout this multicolored space are several gigantic energy cores. By focusing on these energy cores using his extremely accurate sense of ki, Gogeta realizes that within each of these cores, there are countless energy sources of the most diverse possibility. He even notices that in some of them, there are energies that are familiar familiar, while in others he is unaware of everything he feels. He asks Gaia what these things are. Gaia responds by saying that each of these things he is seeing are dimensions. Gogeta retorts by saying that he knows very well what a dimension is, since Goku and Vegeta have already been through several, and he himself too. And these things he's seeing now don't look like the dimensions he knows, since the dimensions, despite being separate areas of the multiverse, still share the general energy of the multiverse, and that doesn't seem to be the case with those things. Hearing this, Gaia lets out a smile, something that Gogeta recognizes as amusement or mockery, and asks what's so funny. Gaia responds by saying that Gogeta's concept of dimension is a little different from her concept of dimension. She explains that the dimensions he refers to are nothing more than parts of the multiverse in which he resides. But the dimensions he is seeing now are completely different. They are worlds apart. Gaia raises her hands, and suddenly, Gogeta sees giant mirrors appear in front of these dimensions, and these mirrors, as if they were a hologram, seem to reflect what is inside them. As the board continues its journey, and what happens in some dimensions is displayed by these mirrors, Gaia explains. The dimensions you can normally teleport to are spaces that already exist in the multiverse in which you reside. In other words, with your teleportation, you remain within a multiverse. However, being able to access parallel spaces that exist within it, breaking some walls of your reality, I must admit that this in itself is already impressive, as very few people are able to break the walls of reality to the point of reaching alternative places. But this is still very little compared to what happens here. At that moment, you are completely outside the boundaries of the multiverse, and what you're doing is traveling between multiple multiverses on a completely higher plane. Passing through one of the holograms, Gogeta comes across a very peculiar image where a bald Gohan using his beast form is facing Golden Frieza and Golden Cooler, who are Siamese twins. Using this as an example, Gaia explains that this fight does not take place in any parallel location in the multiverse where Gogeta came from, but rather in a multiverse where things happen in a very different way. Gogeta tells Gaia that the places Goku and Vegeta have visited so far simply seem like alternative versions of what they experienced. To him, this seems much more like alternative timelines, like the one future Trunks came from. But Gaia responds by explaining that this goes far beyond any alternative timeline, as timelines are also parallel realities that take place within a single multiverse. She explains that all these realities that Gogeta is seeing now have their own timelines, which are also infinite. The experience that he, Goku, and Vegeta just had in Cumber's reality, for example, was not simply in an alternative timeline of their multiverse, but in another multiverse that in itself already has its infinity. Gaia also says that he probably already realized that the power scale of the multiple realities is very variable. Gogeta says yes, and remembers that in the reality he just came from, Krillin, for example, was incomparably more powerful than the Krillin he knows. And also, Master Roshi had a level of Ultra Instinct refining that almost compared to an angel in his reality. Gaia says that this variation in power is extremely common, and says that this friend of his called Krillin can be stronger than the most powerful gods in some realities, while in others he can be weaker than a bee. Gogeta says that if the differences between realities are as insane as she's saying, he can't let his guard down even against the weakest people he knows. Maybe somewhere there is a Pilaf who can kill him. Gaia also explains that although he has so far only seen alternative worlds similar to his, there are infinite other worlds that are not. To give an example, Gaia points to one of the holograms that displays what happens in some dimension, and then Gogeta understands what she means when he sees a completely unknown reality, where a boy who has an energy sphere in his hand hits a hairy man. But he makes fun of what he sees, saying the following: "His energy looks like a sphere of ki with a different color. Big deal." Then he sees in another hologram a guy in a cape fighting a very ugly man. What's new about a guy wearing a ridiculous costume with a cape? Gohan has been doing this for a long time, he comments, comparing that caped man to the Great Saiyaman. Then he sees a boy stretching his arm to punch a weird fish man in the face. Big deal, any Namekian can do that, and there are animal-like men on Earth too. Then he sees a man wearing mechanical armor firing a laser. Mule used something similar when he fought Vegeta. The next one was two men in a sword battle. Even Yamcha knew how to use swords. Hearing Gogeta make an inappropriate comment for each reality that was shown, Gaia raises her hands again and the holograms disappear. She explains to him that the point is not to find similarities, but to understand that in these realities that he has just seen, the way things work is very different than in his world, and that in these realities neither he nor those he knows exist. This is something that simply goes beyond common dimensions or alternative timelines, and that's not all. Each of these dimensions she just showed has infinite variations, where the scales of power are also extremely variable. While in one dimension a person may be considered weak in power, in another dimension, that same person may have completely transcendental power. Gogeta asks where they are now, and what exactly are Gaia and those other guys who kidnapped him doing. Gaia explains that this place where they are now, called Top of Infinity, is the place where he can have control over all dimensions. A kind of neutral zone, and in that place lives the Dimensional Patrol, the order of which she and those two men are part. Gogeta tells her that he needs more information than that, but Gaia, saying that they are approaching a gigantic tower, says that his questions will have to wait a little longer. The flying board goes to the top of this tower, where there is an empty flat space, and in that space there is a man. When the board lands there, Gaia introduces Gogeta to that person. Gogeta, this is the captain of the Dimensional Patrol, Crones. After being introduced, Crones politely greets Gogeta. He has the same serious expression as Gaia and those two he had met before, but he seems to try hard to be more cordial. However, Gogeta does not share the same cordiality as Crones, and says that if he is the leader of this patrol, then he can send him home at once. However, to Gogeta's irritation, Crones says that won't happen, at least not now. Gogeta says he doesn't understand what they want from him, and tells them to talk at once. Crones says that Goku and Vegeta's actions have caused great instability between many dimensions, and this is causing a lot of problems for them. At first, the objective of the Dimensional Patrol was to arrest them and make a trial that would probably end in their death. But investigating the situation, they understood that nothing had happened was on purpose, so they decided that they can pay for their crimes in some other way. Gogeta sighs while saying that he already understands where this is going. Crones confirms his suspicion, saying that the Dimensional Patrol wants Goku and Vegeta to work for them, paying for their crimes with service. Gogeta says that he doesn't intend to be enslaved by anyone, and that if they intend to force him to do something, they are very mistaken. Crones patiently reminds Gogeta what happened when he tried to confront a patrolman for the first time, and also what just happened to Gaia. Trying to fight them is useless. Gogeta says that in none of these situations was he using his maximum power. If he uses his full power, things will be very different. But Crones says that they actually already saw the extent of his powers in the fight against Cumber, and even though he didn't use all of his powers against Cumber, it was possible to get a sense of the extent of his abilities. Crones states that he can guarantee that Gogeta will not be a challenge to any of the patrollers, especially him. He says that the patrollers are on a completely superior level, to the point that Gogeta's power has no meaning for them. Gaia adds that all Dimensional Rangers are unique beings, and those who belong to this group are the most powerful of all realities. She admits that Gogeta is very powerful, especially using that skill called Shinken, but not even the Shinken power will make any difference in a fight against them. Even after they said all this, Gogeta still doesn't seem convinced, and seeing this, Crones tells him that maybe Gogeta doesn't want to help the Dimensional Patrol because he's thinking that all this is very far from his reality, but actually is not, and sooner or later everything he knows will also be affected. Gogeta asks what he means by that. Crones explains it further, saying that after Goku and Vegeta transcended the barriers of realities for the first time, they created a chain effect of weakening the barriers. The result of this is that a very strong instability is being created, and this could end up in the destruction of several realities, including his. At an absolutely incredible speed, Crones approaches Gogeta, touching his forehead before he can react, and suddenly, a vision comes to Gogeta's mind, where he sees Earth, and the planet is going through a natural calamity of absurd proportions, while an army of strange creatures is attacking the planet. After showing this, Crones walks away, returning to the same place he was at such a high speed that it doesn't even look like he left there. He explains that what Gogeta just saw is a glimpse of an alternative future of the Earth of his reality, where the dimensional imbalance will cause many natural problems on the planet, and also a people from a much more powerful dimension will invade the Earth and annihilate everyone who lives there. Somehow, Gogeta realizes that the vision he just saw doesn't seem to be an illusion, and knowing that it is real, he becomes worried. Crones continues talking, explaining that even if Gogeta returns to his reality now and tries to live normally, sooner or later this problem will catch up with him and the people he loves, and no matter how strong he is, he won't be able to avoid the complete chaos and total destruction of his reality. Gaia adds that helping the Dimensional Patrol will not only help Gogeta pay for his crimes, but also save his own reality. After pondering all of this for a few seconds, Gogeta finally gives his answer, and preceded by a long sigh, the answer is yes. But Gogeta says that he would like to know a little more about the Dimensional Patrol, like who exactly they are, what they do, who their leader is, and so on. Crones says he doesn't need to know these things now, and if he wants more information, he needs to earn it. He says that all Gogeta needs to know for now is that the Dimensional Patrol works for the balance of dimensions, and as long as Gogeta is working with them, his role will be that too. After saying these things, Crones asks Gaia to inform Gogeta of his mission. She raises her hands, and then suddenly one of those various realities approaches them. Wow, did she just move an entire reality? This must be like moving all 12 universes, Gogeta comments, very impressed. Gaia begins to explain his mission. This reality, like the others you have been to so far, has similarities to the reality you come from, but it is obviously very different as well. We have found that there is an imbalance in the dimensional barriers of this reality, but we have not yet been able to investigate because there are literally millions of other more serious problems that we need to resolve first. So your mission is to go to that reality, discover the cause of the problem, and deal with it. Gogeta asks how he will do that, and Gaia just replies that he will find a way. Crones tells Gogeta that he must already be aware of the variation in powers of realities, and warns that in this reality he is going to now, there are extremely powerful beings, and he should not let his guard down at any time. Gogeta nods, signaling that he understands the situation, but he gets a little worried and asks if Crones thinks Goku and Vegeta will be able to handle everything once the fusion is over. Gaia looks at him with a curious look when she hears this. Oh, you didn't know? The fusion will not end, she says. When Gogeta hears this, his mouth drops to the floor. Crones explains that as they have Shinken, a technique that elevates all of their abilities to an extreme level, the same happened with the fusion technique. In other words, the time limitation was removed. Gaia says she is surprised he didn't know about it. Gogeta says that Goku and Vegeta still didn't have such a high level of knowledge about Shinken, and they certainly didn't know that. Crones, while pointing his hand at Gogeta, tells him not to worry, as there are ways to undo the fusion, and he will figure it out later. Before Gogeta could ask anything else, he just disappeared from there. Gogeta appears in the middle of a very strange planet, completely desert. Damn, I feel like a pawn going from one side to the other, he complains. Gogeta starts to wonder what he has to do now, since Crones and Gaia didn't give any instructions about where the problem that affects the dimensions could be. Then, Gogeta closes his eyes and begins to concentrate, and in an instant he can locate himself, but he is surprised when this happens. The reason for Gogeta's surprise is that he realizes that in the dimension he is in, there is no division of universes. He realizes that in this dimension there is a single universe, but it is much larger than the 12 universes he knew combined. It looks like I'm really going to find a lot of different things here, he concludes. Suddenly, something else catches Gogeta's attention, surprising him a lot. These two key, what does that mean? Somewhere in the vacuum of space, an extremely intense battle is taking place. Two beams of light fight, moving at extraordinary speed and delivering attacks so incredibly powerful that they shake the entire structure of that gigantic universe. One of these light beams is white in color, while the other is divided between white and purple. The white light, after a collision with the other light, is launched very far, traveling through space at a stratospheric speed that surpasses the speed of light countless times. It is at one of the corners of the southern galaxy that the white light finally loses strength, and stops when it invades a gigantic planet and falls to its ground, leaving the planet completely cracked thanks to the violence of the impact. Gogeta immediately goes to this planet with a teleportation, stopping near the white light that fell on the planet, and looking at who that being is, he confirms his suspicions. "Miss Vados, what's going on?" he asks. Vados, the guardian angel who in his reality serves Universe 6, is down, completely injured and with blood dripping from her face. Her expression is one of pain and suffering. She asks who he is. Gogeta introduces himself, saying his name and making it clear that he is not an enemy. The ray of white and purple light approaches at extraordinary speed, landing on the planet while opening a crater in the ground. The one who has just arrived emanates an aura of intense power. The aura is double, where light and dark energy mix in an incredible balance. Gogeta knows those two energies very well. It is the power of Hakai and Ultra Instinct. And that's not all. He recognizes the wielder of that power too. Vegito, right? He asks the other Saiyan, who looks at him with a curious look.
Ahead of Gogeta, Vegito exudes completely surreal power, with his aura perfectly balancing the energy of Ultra Ego and Ultra Instinct. Behind, Vados is lying down with blood spilling from her face that conveys an expression of pain and suffering, clearly very injured from a cruel fight. Before Gogeta could understand better the situation, Vegito began to release his energy with even more intensity. The white and purple energy that was previously in balance now begins to give more emphasis to purple energy, indicating a predominance of fury in Vegito. "I will destroy everyone," the man says, his face filled with what Gogeta recognizes as an intense thirst for destruction. "Careful," Vados screams. It only takes a fraction of a second for the attack to come. A punch that Gogeta dodges with a side jump while using his psychic strength to take Vados along with him. Vegito's punch, which was completely loaded with destructive power, makes the entire planet simply disappear from the point where Gogeta was behind. Everything that existed in that place behind Gogeta is simply gone. "Hey, calm down, buddy. Can't we talk for a bit?" Gogeta asks as he finishes his dodge by moving away from the other guy and leaving Vados safely on the ground. Vados warns Gogeta, saying that there is no point in talking to this guy. He is a beast of destruction, a killer who must be stopped at all costs. Then Vegito attacks again, this time with a colossal energy attack endowed with pure destructive power. Gogeta, using his hands and telekinetic force, manages to drive that large discharge of energy upwards, causing it to be lost in the vacuum of space without damaging the planet or hurting him and Vados. But right after the energy torrent comes Vegito with a flying kick that hits Gogeta right in the chest, dragging him across the surface of the planet while leaving a line of voracious destruction along the ground, carrying the two from the surface of the planet to the vacuum of space. "Apparently you don't really want to talk," Gogeta says as the enemy's foot presses against his chest and carries him through the black void. But then Gogeta quickly deals with it by grabbing Vegito's ankle, spinning him around and launching him back towards the planet. Vegito reaches the planet's ground by digging with his body until he reaches the center, diving into volcanic lava. But this lava is nothing for the Saiyan, who emerges floating without any extra injuries to his body. When Vegito emerges from the lava, Gogeta is already there waiting for him. "It's okay if you don't want to talk. In fact, I prefer it that way," he says while flashing a defiant smile. Vados has just gotten up when she sees a crater opening in the ground in what appears to be an implosion. Those responsible are the two Saiyans, who leave the interior of the planet completely breaking through the ground. The two deliver extremely fast and strong blows to each other, which are powerful enough to impress even the angel watching. A kick from Vegito comes towards Gogeta's face. He blocks it with his arms. However, the force of the blow is such that it breaks his block and opens his guard. Vegito takes the opportunity to attack with a punch, but Gogeta disappears in front of him and reappears behind his back, ready to land a powerful punch. However, Vegito reacts promptly by turning around while releasing his key sword from his hand, which reaches Gogeta's body before he could reach the opponent with his punch. But to Vegito's complete surprise, Gogeta's body simply deforms to the point of taking on a serpentine shape, and snaking around his key sword, Gogeta catches him with a punch to the face. While pushed away by Gogeta's blow, Vegeta launches a well-aimed Kienzan at him, but Gogeta simply separates his body, letting his energy disc pass straight through him. Then he makes the lower part of his body disappear with the teleportation and reappears behind Vegito to kick him. However, Vegito grabs Gogeta's leg and throws it back at him, but goes before Gogeta's leg returns. It is completely destroyed by Vegito's Hakai. After destroying Gogeta's legs, Vegito advances towards him, preparing a punch with a lot of energy of destruction concentrated. But Gogeta makes his legs appear again on his body while he stretches one of them to reach Vegito with a kick to the face before his punch reaches him. "You damn freak! I had enough of your tricks!" Vegito screams, full of rage. "You've not seen anything yet," Gogeta says as he teleports to Vegito's back and stretches his body in a way that completely immobilizes him. "Now I got you." But Vegito smiles at the same time as his body starts to turn purple and releases power in such a way that energy leaks out of him like water from a leaking pipe. "No, I got you," he answers. Vegito's body suddenly explodes, causing the power of that explosion to spread across multiple solar systems, shaking the structure of all of them. After receiving that blast, Gogeta is completely shattered. Vegito, satisfied with the total destruction of his enemy, celebrates with a malicious smile. "This idiot thought he was the only one who had tricks, but I tricked him with my Hakai clone. I bet you didn't expect that one." But at that moment, a voice comes into Vegito's mind. "I really didn't expect that." Recognizing Gogeta's voice, Vegito is shocked and asked how he's still alive and where he is. Floating in the vacuum is a part of Gogeta's brain, and from this measly remaining part of his brain, he manages to regenerate in a second, completely restructuring his body. Vegito asked how the hell that is possible. Gogeta says that he managed to focus his consciousness on that remaining part of his brain, as well as his ki. This way he managed to stay alive and regenerate. "What kind of freak are you?" Vegito asked in complete shock. "Someone who has reached a higher level," Gogeta responds, explaining that his control over his body, ki, and consciousness transcends common sense. He also compares himself to a Namekian who can regenerate his own body as long as his head remains intact. What he did wasn't that different, just on a completely higher level. Then Gogeta has a more serious expression as he says the following. "But I have to admit that you almost had me there. Your destructive power is simply incredible. I can't be careful from now on. I better use my final form at once." After saying this, Gogeta concentrates his power while releasing brilliant ki, leaving Vegito gaping as he feels his total transcendental energy. At that moment, Gogeta Shinken reveals himself, displaying a majestic power that Vegito doesn't even recognize. "What do you think of that, huh? Now you won't blow me up as easily," Gogeta says, unable to keep from smiling. Proud of his own power, Gogeta doesn't take long to show his power in practice, reaching Vegito by landing an extremely hard elbow on his abdomen, a blow that makes the enemy feel dizzying pain. Then a sequence of attacks that Vegito barely sees coming hits him all over his body, crushing flesh and cracking bones, ending with a punch in the middle of the chest that makes the Saiyan feel a strong implosion in his body thanks to the extreme internal pressure caused by the blow, exhaling blood from his eyes, mouths, ears, and nose. And at the end, the final punch comes, with Gogeta's fist surrounded by Shinken's bright, vibrant energy, but the blow is held. "What?" Gogeta exclaims. After that, a punch hits the Shinken warrior in the middle of the face, followed by a powerful kick that sends him millions of light years per second. Gogeta crosses a gigantic portion of that gigantic universe at transcendental speed, to the point that his simple locomotion distorts space-time in such a way that he is transported to another dimension, where he stops when colliding with full force into an invisible wall. But Vegito soon follows him to that dimension, opening a dimensional portal thanks to his incredible speed, and reaching Gogeta with an extremely powerful knee to the face, an attack power so colossal that it breaks the invisible wall of that dimension, transporting them to another, where all that exists is a blinding light that surpasses the brightness and heat of 1,000 suns. But for Gogeta and Vegito, this is nothing. Gogeta, after having his face literally crushed by Vegito's knee, makes his face recover in one instant, and then he's already advancing against the opponent, starting an exchange of blows that takes technique, strength, speed, and power to the limit of the extreme. While the physical confrontation upholds, Gogeta asks his enemy, "How can this be possible? You suddenly became able to face me in Shinken form without even using another transformation." Vegito responds, "Well, the answer is simple. Earlier, I just regulated my power according to yours, just like I'm doing now." The answer catches Gogeta's attention, who asks if Vegito still has more power saved. Vegito says yes and deduces that Gogeta's situation is the same. The two start to smile, but at the same time the battle increases in intensity. The energy generated by the shock of those monstrous attacks is so great that it raises the temperature of that scorching dimension even further, making the heat of 1,000 suns seem like the heat of the light of a simple candle. A punch from Gogeta lands in Vegito's face, who immediately responds with a punch as well, but is intercepted by a knee to the stomach so strong that it shakes the dimensional order again, this time transporting them to a dimension where everything that exists is a great dark. Another punch from Gogeta comes but is held by Vegito, who tries to respond with a headbutt, but is intercepted by Gogeta's elbow, which hits his nose. Gogeta and Vegito move away while concentrating their powers. At the same time, they fire a Kamehameha full of power, which when they collide creates a majestic explosion, filling that dark dimension with a spectacle of light and colors while shaking the entire balance of that place with overwhelming power. As expected, the dimension breaks, taking the two back to the void of the universe, facing each other while panting, but smiling. Vegito says he's very surprised by Gogeta's power, but says he's going to destroy him the same way he did the others. Gogeta responds by saying that despite Vegito is saying these things, his energy is declining much faster, as there is clearly a certain difficulty on his part in keeping the power of Ultra Instinct and Hakai in balance. After Gogeta makes this observation, Vegito falls silent for a moment, surely recognizing that he is right. Their conversation is interrupted when Vados arrives at Gogeta, appearing behind him, and she's not alone. WHIS is with her, giving a quick analysis of the situation. WHIS comments that it appears that Vegito's energy has dropped considerably, which is impressive. He praises Gogeta for that. Vados thanks Gogeta and says that he saved her life, in addition to also weakening the enemy a lot. Gogeta tells them that he's not finished yet, and that soon this guy will be defeated. But suddenly a beam of energy passes through him from his back to chest. The person responsible for this is Vados herself, looks at him with a malicious smile just like WHIS. Gogeta is caught completely off guard by this and asks what the hell they're doing, and the person who also seems to be surprised by this is Vegito. Vados says that she's very grateful for Gogeta saving her, but it is completely clear that he is a good person, and from the moment he understood the situation better, he would turn against them, and they cannot allow that. While Vados keeps Gogeta impaled on her energy sword, WHIS quickly summons his staff, and using some magic he begins to suck Gogeta into the staff. As Gogeta is swallowed by the magical force, WHIS tells him that he will live the rest of his life sealed in a special dimension. In a second, Gogeta has completely disappeared. Seeing everything that happened, Vegito asks in surprise if that guy wasn't one of their lackeys. Vados replies no, and says that it was all just a happy coincidence. Using the magic of his staff, WHIS heals Vados, who thanks her brother and says that unfortunately this bastard destroyed her staff. No problem, Daddy will make another one for you later, sister, WHIS responds. With completely evil smiles taking over their faces, the two angels face Vegito, who looks at them with a look of concern. Damn, I spent too much energy on that guy. Facing two of them at once will be a huge headache. The one who attacks first is Vados, who disappears from where she is to reappear in front of Vegito, trying a very strong kick. At that moment, Vegito highlights the energy of Ultra Instinct in his body in order to dodge Vados' kick by millimeters, passing under her leg. But soon after, WHIS surrounds him from the side, throwing a punch that when Vegito sees it coming, releases the energy of destruction. And concentrating this power in his fist, he responds to WHIS's blow with a collision that creates a massive force of impact that sends each of them to one side. Vegito takes advantage of the separation of the angels to attack WHIS, but the angel dodges his blow with smooth mastery and then counterattacks with surreal raw power, making Vegito's arm vibrate inside as he defends his blow. Vegito and WHIS exchange thousands of attacks in an exchange of blows that lasts a single second before being interrupted by a shot of energy from Vados, which Vegito responds with a massive discharge of energy of destruction that disappears along with the angel's attack. But this distraction is enough for WHIS to find an opening and land a direct blow to Vegito's ribs, who is then hit by a flying kick from Vados, which hits him in the back. WHIS and Vados attacks, although they seem simple, but having incredible precision and accurately hit Vegito's vital points, who feel these last blows very much. The angel wastes no time in advance, both coming from the front with full power. However, an energy cut that appears in the void forces them to retreat. It's not possible, WHIS explains when he sees what it is. It's Gogeta, who has just appeared between them and Vegito. Gogeta tells the angel that it was a good try, but now his teleportation technique has reached such a high level that even the weird dimension where WHIS sealed him has become considerably easier to escape. Vados tells his brother that if that's the case, there's no other way than kill them both. WHIS observes Gogeta's body and realizes that the wound that Vados caused is no longer there, which means that this man has a very great healing capacity. Vegito goes to Gogeta's side while agreeing with WHIS, saying that this guy's healing capacity is so high that it's scandalous. Gogeta tells Vegito that it looks like he's finally willing to listen. Vegito apologizes for attacking him like that, and says that he only did that because he's already had to deal with so many invaders that he's simply in automatic mode. Gogeta says he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he can explain better later. Their conversation is interrupted when WHIS simply appears in their midst with a slashing attack, simulating a blade with his hand that manifests into a keyblade. But thanks to Ultra Instinct, Gogeta and Vegito manage to dodge that sudden, highly accurate attack, each going their own way. After the two dodge his attack, WHIS turns to Gogeta, while Vados goes behind his back and turns to Vegito. Once the angels choose their opponents, they go on the attack. WHIS and Gogeta start the fight, and so do Vegito and Vados. As he increasingly engages in the dispute against WHIS, Gogeta asks what happened to him, and says that the WHIS he knows doesn't act like that. Also, he can't help but notice that this WHIS is much more powerful than the one he knows, and that seems to be the case with Vados as well. After hearing this, WHIS deduces that Gogeta is not from this reality either, which was actually to be expected, since if there was someone like him in this world, they would already know. Gogeta asks what he means by that and tells him to explain better, but WHIS says he doesn't need to answer questions. Vados and Vegeta are exchanging equally voracious blows, with each executing attacks, defenses, and counterattacks with exceptional technical quality and overwhelming power, trying to find a gap in each other's guard to land a definitive blow. Vados tells Vegito that he no longer has the same vigor as when they started, and that things will be different now. But Vegeta responds in a provocative tone, saying that he can still defeat her with one hand behind his back. For a very brief moment, Vados allows herself to be irritated by this provocation, and it is precisely at that moment that Vegito finds the opportunity to hit her right in the stomach with a kick. In the other fight, it is the Saiyan who opens a gap first, then the Angel, receiving a knife hand blow right in the throat. WHIS smiles after landing this blow, but it is Gogeta who smiles last when revealing that it was nothing more than an energy clone which explodes after being hit. Even after receiving that full blast, WHIS doesn't receive more than minor injuries, and tells Gogeta that he'll need much more than that to defeat an Angel. But Gogeta says he knows this very well, and guarantees that he's just getting started. Angel and Saiyan begin to move at an insanely high speed, starting a race that mixes with an exchange of high-level attacks that spreads throughout the region of the universe. Their bodies are distorted to the point of becoming blurs of light, leaving as the only clue of their presence very powerful impact waves that reverberate millions of light years away. Meanwhile, a true rain of purple energy falls on Vados, who uses her refined Ultra Instinct to perfectly dodge those multiple destructive attacks launched by Vegito. But the Angel doesn't just stay on the defensive. She also gives an offensive response by firing several white energy lasers at Vegito, who, alternating between Hakai energy and Ultra Instinct energy, dodges her many counterattacks. In a moment, an attack by Vados and Vegito meet, and when that happens, an explosion of cosmic scale occurs, taking with it the entire solar system they were in, and also multiple other solar systems in the surroundings. At the end of that clash of powers, all that is left is an empty space around the Angel and the Saiyan. Vegito and Vados look at each other, panting, and then Gogeta and WHIS join them, each going to their companion's side, both also panting. WHIS calls Vados to leave, telling her that there is no point in them continuing to risk themselves in that battle. Vados agrees, but not before telling the two Saiyans that she will have their blood on her hands. Gogeta tells WHIS that they will meet again, and next time, they'll finish this. WHIS says they will see, and after summoning his staff, he makes him and Vados disappear from there. When the Angels leave, both Gogeta and Vegito sigh in relief as they return to base form, and Gogeta asks Vegito if he can now explain what's happening. They go to the closest planet they can find, which despite being the closest, was several solar systems away, as the collision of Vegito and Vados' powers destroyed many solar systems that were around. On this planet with a pleasant climate, the two sit calmly to talk. while using the power of the Divine Saiyan to completely recover from the wounds of the battle. When they start talking, the first thing Vegito notices is that Gogeta is definitely not from this dimension. Gogeta obviously confirms it and says that he was actually sent to this dimension to solve some dimensional balance problem that he doesn't even know what it is. Vegito says that he actually knows exactly what Gogeta is talking about, so he reveals his situation by explaining the following. It's been approximately 1 year since it all started. Suddenly, some strange creatures that were not part of the universe began to appear. Among these creatures were people of all kinds, from people who were simply confused by what was happening to people who were malicious, and also people who were not even aware of anything, such as monsters and beasts. In the beginning, the cases were sporadic, and it didn't tend to be a really relevant problem for someone who has a level of power like mine. But as time passed, I noticed that the cases were becoming more and more regular and stronger, and apparently better organized enemies were appearing. I began to suspect that there was something behind these appearances, and that's when I noticed them. Starting to understand things, Gogeta asks if angels are responsible for these appearances of strange beings in his dimension. Vegito says he's not sure. He doesn't know if the angels are the ones causing these apparitions or if they appeared by chance and decided to take advantage of the situation. But the fact is that these angels want to destroy him, who is the protector of this universe, and their ultimate goal is to dominate this entire world. Gogeta asks why Vegito attacked him like that. Vegito justifies it by explaining that angels don't act alone. They usually act with minions, who are generally very powerful creatures, by the way. He says that earlier, before Gogeta arrived, he needed to eliminate some of Vados' minions before starting to fight her. When he saw Gogeta, he thought it was another one of Vados' lackeys, or perhaps a servant of another angel. After everything Vegito said, Gogeta now understands the situation a little better, and he says that it was very good that they met, since apparently dealing with these angels in some way could be the key to him fulfilling his mission in this dimension. But this certainly won't be easy, since from what he could see, the angels are much more powerful than the angels in his dimension. Vegito welcomes him and says he won't deny any help, since dealing with dozens of enemies every day isn't easy. Dozens? Gogeta repeats what the other Saiyan just said, a little amazed. But after thinking it over, he smiles and says, well, if these guys are really strong, then it will be worth it. Vegito also smiles and says that it looks like they both speak the same language, but their chat is interrupted when someone appears in front of them with a teleport. That someone is Daishinken. Damn, they already sent the most powerful of them all? Gogeta exclaims as he stands up and gets into a fight stance. Without thinking twice, he attacks. Daishinken is on guard. Gogeta reaches Daishinken in the blink of an eye, with a simple movement kick, but with overwhelming force. Daishinken retreats in a discreet step, but it is enough to make him escape the range of the kick, which hits nothing but the air, causing a powerful wind in the region thanks to his extraordinary strength. Wait. Don't attack him like that, Vegito screams. But Gogeta doesn't listen, focusing on the enemy in front of him and trying a second attack. Another kick, which comes from above like an axe. Again, Daishinken's response is to retreat, letting the ground below it hit instead and receiving a gigantic hole in its structure. This time, Daishinken's retreat is wider, moving away from Gogeta by several meters. But the Saiyan can still reach him, extending his two arms while firing a machine gun of punches at the angel, who despite the multiple blows coming his way dodges them all, with unparalleled calm and mastery. But even he didn't expect the appearance of a second Gogeta behind him. A clone? Daishinken wonders in thoughts. The angel doesn't have time to think, as a downward punch from Gogeta's two clasped hands comes towards his head. Daishinken intervenes with his arms defending the blow, but being buried in the ground, and in an instant crossing that planet from one surface to another. The two Gogetas go after him, one going around the planet to the west and the other to the east, both arriving at the same time on the other side to hit a flying kick in Daishinken, who, having just emerged from the ground, separates his arms and hold the feet of the two Gogetas. The double kick hits Daishinken's block with abysmal power, exploding the entire planet thanks to the force of impact. But even after that enormous impact that had his body as its epicenter, the High Priest remains in his full posture, as if it were nothing. Gogeta smiles, saying that he expected nothing less from the Supreme Angel. He then retreats. His clone breaks down into pure energy, and this energy returns to his body. But let's see how you'll do if I attack you with my real power, Gogeta says in a challenging tone as he puts puts himself in the power concentration position, ready to use his Shinken form. But then Vegito appears in front of him with a teleport. "Wait," he says, to then clear up the misunderstanding. "This one isn't an enemy. He's one of the good guys." After receiving this warning, Gogeta is surprised, showing on his face the expression of someone who feels like a complete idiot. Vegito clarifies everything, saying that this Daishinken is not one of the invaders. He belongs to that dimension. Realizing that Gogeta no longer had the intention of fighting, Daishinken takes his classic stance of putting his hands behind his back. And with his usual friendly smile, he says, "It's a pleasure to meet you in person." Gogeta asks if Daishinken already knows him. Daishinken says yes, since he was watching everything, and saw the way Gogeta fought against Vegito, and then against WHIS and Vados. Gogeta apologizes and says that he shouldn't have attacked so suddenly. Daishinken accepts the apology, and says that at least it was a fun exercise. Vegito turns to Daishinken and asks what he was doing there. The angel responds by explaining that he thought his help might be welcome in making Gogeta understand everything that was happening. After saying this, Daishinken calls Gogeta to return with them, and he accepts. In a completely obscure dimension, surrounded by an intense nebula, stands a tower of titanic proportions. At the top of this tower there is a huge hall, and in the center of this hall there are 17 creatures. 16 of these beings are positioned in 2 lines, each with 8 of them leaving in the center a corridor that has a being at its end. The huge doors of this huge hall open as 2 creatures arrive at the place. The 2 who have just arrived are WHIS and Vados, who don't have a good expression. The one at the center of everyone greets the 2 angels, saying that they took much longer than expected. WHIS and Vados each go to a line, now completing 2 lines of 9 members. Vados says that she unfortunately made a miscalculation and ended up having a lot more problems with the man called Vegito than she would like to admit. WHIS, in a completely provocative speech, corrects Vados' speech, saying that in fact she was completely humiliated by that mortal. Vados gets angry when she hears her brother say that, and tells WHIS not to exaggerate. She even says that if WHIS had been in her place, things wouldn't have been much different. He smiles when she says this and disagrees, saying that he actually would have done much better against that guy. Vados also smiles, but her smile has a slight hysterical look, and as the whole place begins to shake, the angel questions whether her brother is insinuating that he is stronger than her. The shaking of the place becomes even more intense when WHIS's expression takes on an equally frightening appearance, as he responds that yes, he is stronger than her. However, a voice echoes, "Enough!" At the same moment, the tremors stop, and a deafening silence becomes present. The one who just spoke is the one in the center, Daishinken, but another Daishinken, who has a much more malicious expression than the one Gogeta just met. After the Father of Angels manifests himself, he receives a frightening apology from his 2 children who are fighting. After calming things down, Daishinken mentions the second man who appeared and asks about him. It was a very inopportune appearance. WHIS responds, returning to his refined tone of voice. This man appears to be as strong as Vegito or even more, and to make matters worse, he seems willing to help our enemies. After hearing this, Daishinken remains silent for a while, pondering the situation. But his reflections are interrupted by an angel who steps hard on the floor of the room to the point of cracking it, and in a shrill voice shouts, "My father! We can't let that bastard who hurt our sister get away with this situation." A voracious gaze from Daishinken is directed at this angel, who at the same moment falls to his knees, feeling an overwhelming pain in his body. Next to this kneeling angel is Margarita, who watches her brother with a look of fear while thinking the following. The pressure of Dad's ki has invaded Vod's body and is pushing him to the limit. The feeling is so overwhelming that even I'm feeling sick. It's not just Margarita who feels bad, all the angels in the room feel the same way. A very great discomfort invades all of their bodies, and fear fills their hearts. The Father of Angels rebukes his rebellious son, saying the following, "Vod, how long will you let your foolish personality influence your wisdom? Have I not already taught you that we should never act hastily?" Then the pressure in the body of the angel called Vod increases to the point where he simply inflates in a way that looks like he's going to explode. In doing so, Daishinken asks, "Tell me, son, will I need to use the most extreme discipline on you?" Vod is overcome by desperate pain, but he still manages to find the strength to speak, and he uses these strengths to beg for his father's forgiveness. Daishinken grants his forgiveness, freeing Vod of his oppressive energy and allowing his body to return to normal. While Vod is relieved from the excruciating pain he just felt, Daishinken addresses his children with the following instructions. As I have said before, our enemies are very powerful, and we cannot deal with them lightly. If any of you bring me the head of Vegito, his new friend and his masters, I will gladly receive it. But you better not embarrass us with foolish defeats, or else there will be no mercy. After instructing his children, Shinken releases them all from that meeting. Through the corridors, Wad walks without being able to hide his fury, despite having faced the true face of terror when he suffered his father's reprimand. Even that did not take away his anger at what happened to Vados. Coincidentally, it is she herself who appears in front of him, stopping Vod's walk to ask if he is okay. Vod says his body isn't completely well yet, but it will recover quickly. However, what will not recover is his pride, which was injured the moment she, his sister, was hurt by that filthy mortal. Vados approaches Vod, placing her hand on his shoulder and thanking him for his concern for her honor. At that moment, Vod can't avoid a slight blush on his face, and soon after he tries to hide it by explaining that it's not just about Vados, but about the pride of all of them. After all, we are angels, the most powerful race of all. We cannot be subjugated by a mere mortal, Vod says. Vados agrees, however she admits that Vegito's power is not just anything, and neither is that of this man called Gogeta. So if they want to deal with these bastards, they need to find a weak spot. Vod says he doesn't like this type of tactic, and that he prefers to resolve things simply with his enormous power. Vados says that she also thought she could do this, but she made a deadly mistake by subduing the power of this man called Vegito. She insists that the wisest thing to do is to find a way to shake Vegito, and thus make his defeat simpler. After all, you heard our father's words yourself. A defeat can be punished by death, Vados says, complimenting her argument. After these last words, Vod ends up giving in. Okay, you already convinced me. What kind of weakness might Vegito have that we can exploit? After her brother asks this, Vados smiles and says that she discovered something that will be interesting. Somewhere in the great universe, Chi-Chi, who is seriously injured in her abdomen, crawls on the floor, extremely weak. Someone is chasing her, walking slowly and calmly towards the woman who is crawling for her life. The pursuer, after reaching the woman, points his hand at her. Chi-Chi tries to appeal, crying out for him for her life and begging for mercy. But then she tries one last desperate attack for her life. However, she's completely disintegrated by an energy blast before achieving anything. The author of that shot is Gohan, who maintains an extremely serious expression.